AS9100 compliance. My name is Frank Thomas. I'm with an organization called Adaptive Corporation. We're a sales and service provider for the products that are being featured here today. I'm joined today by Ron Trout of NetInspect. Ron is the Vice President and General Manager of NetInspect, and he'll tell us more about the solution shortly, the value proposition of NetInspect to the aerospace OEMs, as well as connecting the OEMs to their supply chains. Ron's goal is to educate us on what NetInspect is and how you too can benefit by using this service. We are also joined today by Gretchen Baisley of a company called InspectionXpert. InspectionXpert is the first article ballooning software hosted by NetInspect. Gretchen will provide a live demonstration to show us how we can expedite the process of creating balloon drawings and the AS9100, then uploading the information to NetInspect without needing to re-enter the information in NetInspect. Gretchen will show us a live demonstration of their solution that can be hosted via cloud or operate inside of your CAD tool, TIA, for example. First, some quick housekeeping. In the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you have a chat window. This allows you to type questions to the presenters as they occur to you. Please enter the questions at any time during the presentation, and we will try to answer them during the Q&A portion at the end of the webinar. Also, we'll be conducting a few polls during the webinar to better understand our audience today. We know we have a diverse group, so the polls will provide some meaningful feedback to allow us to make the webinar more relevant for you. So first, let me begin by introducing Adaptive Corporation. Ron, if you could go to the next slide, please. There you go. So Adaptive sells and supports the solution you'll see here today. Specifically, we provide training and support to help you get the full benefit of NetInspect and expedite the process of creating your FAIs. In addition, we're a Dassault Systems reseller. We sell their full portfolio of products, including CATIA, throughout North America. What makes Adaptive unique is our focus on the metrology or quality part of your business. We have resources that thoroughly understand this part of your process and the challenges people have in meeting strict aerospace tolerances and requirements. We grew up in this industry, and we're here to help you. Next slide. Next slide, Ron, please. There we go. Our business focus in the market is on the quality organization, as I mentioned earlier. Many companies are rebranding quality departments within their organizations from quality assurance to product integrity. When you think about it, that's what we all do. Quality departments are tasked with ensuring our customer that the product we deliver to them meets the integrity standards set forth by them. NetInspect is all about providing an environment to manage your first articles and products through their entire life cycle. It helps the OEM track who built it, when it was certified, and when did it meet my product integrity standards. Many of our customers are working with composites and employ finite element analysis. We have resources to assist in these areas as well. And now our first poll. So let's try this, and assuming that we can do this correctly. So our first poll, and what we're going to ask you to do is, if you would, select one of the answers on the screen in front of you, and we'll share the results of this back with everybody on the webinar so that you get just kind of a general feel for the, the kind of audience that we have here today. So first, what is your role in the organization? Are you an inspector, are you a quality engineer, quality manager, executive, or some other role in the organization? And again, this will help us make the webinar a little bit more relevant. We'll take about another 10 seconds on this. I see most everybody is already weighed in. So if you just hit one of those buttons on the screen in front of you. We have two more of these polls here that will take about another 30 seconds, and then we're going to get straight away into the product demonstration, which is really the reason that everybody's here. So we'll allow another 5 seconds or so on this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close this poll and then we're going to share the results back with everybody. So it looks like most of the folks on the call today are either inspectors, quality managers, quality engineers, which is exactly what we'd expect. Some of you are in some other role, and that's fine. So we think that you'll find that the webinar today is relevant. So the second question that we have is, are you using NetInspect today? So most everybody on this call has been made aware of NetInspect by their customers. Many of you have been told that you need to use this thing, and some of you may not even really fully understand what NetInspect is. And others, it may be on your radar for some other reason, and you're looking to get a little bit more educated on it, and that's part of why we're here as well. So if you weigh in on this, and so we'll allow another 3 seconds on this or so. I think the results of this are going to shock you. So, so that takes care of pretty much everybody. We'll go ahead and close that poll, and then we'll share the results out with you. So what you'll see is that it's darn near even. Of close to 100 people on the call today, about half of you are using NetInspect today. The other half of you are not. So that's kind of interesting. And we have one last poll, if we could. And this one, I think, will be kind of a tell-all. To again help us hone the subject matter here a little bit better today. How do you create your AS9100 today? Are you using a template? Are you maybe you have a custom application that was created by somebody in your IT organization or some other part of the business? Maybe some of you are using one of the applications that we're going to be featuring today, InspectionXpert. Maybe you're using some other commercial software, and there are some others. And maybe you're doing something completely different. I have no idea. So any feedback that you can provide us would be appreciated. We'll wait about another 10 seconds on this one, then we'll share the results of this back to you. So the way that things are looking, a lot of folks are doing their AS9100 via some kind of a template process, which is, from my previous employer, that's exactly how we did it. And what we find in talking to organizations, that's actually pretty common. So we're going to head and let's allow 3 more seconds, and then we'll share the results of this back with everybody on the call. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close that and share the results back with everybody. So what you'll see is exactly that. About 70% of the people on the call today are using some kind of a template. It's probably an Excel spreadsheet of some kind, maybe a Word doc of some kind, maybe a form that you created in InfoPath, and that's how you're creating your AS9100. So I think that for those of you, you'll find this especially interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that. And we are going to go back to so that, and then we're going to go back to Ron. Oh, what happened to Ron? Ron, are you still on the call? I don't see you on the list here. Okay. So with that, let me introduce
Just noticed that we lost our. Go ahead.
Did we lose Ron? Okay.
I think he's offline. Oh, there he's back.
Oh,
he's back.
Okay. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump over to Gretchen Baisley, who's going to share with us kind of the front end, the first article ballooning part of the process, and then we're very quickly going to get into NetInspect. So over to you, Gretchen.
Great. Thanks so much. So will you be, yes, probably sharing my screen here in just a second. Let's see. So it looks like we're still showing the poll results according to my, there we go. All right. Hopefully you can see my screen okay.
You bet. We can see you fine. Go right ahead.
Wonderful. Okay, so just a little background on who InspectionXpert is, InspectionXpert Corporation. We are a company that creates quality automation software specifically around ballooning, measurement, and reporting of AS9100, PPAP, et cetera. And what we do is we help companies automate the process of creating the ballooned inspection print and the inspection report forms that they need to provide for their AS9100 compliance. We work with a number of different formats to help you with that ballooning process. So what we're going to start with today is I'm going to show you InspectionXpert On Demand, which is a product that you can access via a web browser directly from inside the NetInspect application online. You can launch that application online. And what InspectionXpert On Demand does is it allows us to work with any PDF or TIFF file, import that PDF or TIFF file, add balloons to the drawing, while at the same time using optical character recognition, optical character recognition to extract data from this, what is essentially just a picture image. So we're going to be eliminating a lot of the keystrokes, and when we're done, the keystrokes of capturing things like nominals and tolerances and notes, etc. And when we're done, we're going to be able to push that directly into the NetInspect application so you can populate your forms 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to start with the PDF application, and then we're going to spend just a few minutes and show you our InspectionXpert for CATIA application, which works directly inside the CATIA interface to do the exact same thing, even faster. So I'm going to go ahead and start capturing just a little bit of information. And what I want to do is pick up some of the data from I've already got a PDF here. I'm just going to pick up some of the data from my title block using my optical character recognition. See, it didn't like my M there, so I'll fix that. Oopsie. And also pick up my revision. And what this is I'm just eliminating some of the keystrokes to get this data in. And this is going to populate the header of my AS9100 forms in NetInspect. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And I'm just going to pick up a few dimensions off of here. I'm not going to go into the whole ballooning of the whole print, but I just want you to see a little bit about how this works. So I'm going to pick up a couple of these notes here, just for the heck of it. And you'll notice that as I do this, InspectionXpert adds a balloon. It also picks up a little image capture. And what it's doing with that image capture is it's using the optical character recognition and looking at that and basically converting it or turning it into letters and numbers. So that's what you see here is the value, the OCR output from looking at that image and turning it into letters and numbers. And you can see I'm also building a little table of data down here, which is my Form 3 data. Now let me go ahead and shift over to dimensions, and I'm going to go ahead and pick up some of these guys. I'll pick these up pretty quickly, and what you'll notice is on the left-hand side, as I'm picking these up, InspectionXpert is not only figuring out what those numbers are, but it's also figuring out what they represent. So it's smarter than just understanding that that's a 7. It knows that this is the nominal value, and this is the tolerance value, and it's doing some calculation of the upper and lower limits for me as well. I also have the ability to do a geometric tolerances, and we have something called a GD&T builder, which allows us to create the GD&T that we want to bring over into NetInspect. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Profile of the Surface, click and drag around my numeric value here, click my little camera icon, which puts the values here, and I'm just going to add my datums. And now this data can also go into NetInspect. And I'll just pick up one more just so you can see something a little bit different. All of these dimensions had explicit tolerances, but you'll notice with this one we have a couple more things happening. We've got a quantity of 2, which InspectionXpert figures out. We've got a radius. We've got a nominal value and no explicit tolerance, so InspectionXpert added a default tolerance. So that's a really nice feature that we can automatically, at the beginning of a project, we can set up our default tolerances. We can even save them for use on future projects, and it'll automatically apply those default tolerances if it doesn't see an explicit tolerance. And you can have that based on, forgive me, I'm not sure why that's popping up. You can have that the default tolerance applied differently for linear dimensions versus angular dimensions, and also for different decimal places. So if it's 1, 2, or 3 decimal places, you can have that set up to be different. So that's something we can easily do. Another thing that we can do is we can add a grid to our drawing. We have the ability to add a standard or custom grid. I'm just going to add a standard grid and turn it off so it's not showing. But by adding a grid, that puts a zone in our little table manager that can also be uploaded into NetInspect. I'm going to do one more thing before we publish to NetInspect from here. What we're doing here with this drawing is we're building our Form 3 data. We're capturing our characteristics that are going to go into our Form 3. And that's this little preview you're seeing down here. But you'll notice there's actually two other tabs in our table manager. And these tabs correspond to the Form 1, Form 2, and Form 3 of your AS9100. So what I want to do, I've actually added another PDF to my project, and it's just a little kind of basic parts list. And what we can do with InspectionXpert is we can use optical character recognition to pick up the data from this parts list. We can do it very simply, like one at a time. If you wanted to, you could pick up each element of the data one at a time, like pick up the name, pick up the number, etc., and build your table that way. Or you could do it the faster way, which of course I like, which is extracting the entire table of data at once. Have InspectionXpert now see all the table of data in this little interface, and I could say, okay, well that's the part number, and that's going to be the part name, and let's call that the supplier code, and we'll hit OK, and now we've got data in our table. And we could keep doing that and just appending the data to our table. So now we've got some information that we want to be able to go ahead and publish to NetInspect. So let's do that. I'm going to show you one more thing before we do that, though. We can very quickly see, before we get everything into NetInspect, whether or not we've missed anything with our little hide captures feature. So you can toggle where it will white out everything that's been captured and show you what's remaining. So it's a great little kind of check before you publish everything up to NetInspect. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my Home tab and click my Publish to NetInspect. And I'm going to go ahead and publish this data. It's going to upload my data directly into NetInspect. Now I'm already logged in, so I'm going to click this little hot link, which is telling me what my FAI report number is in NetInspect. And it's going to automatically pop me into NetInspect and show me. Now we're starting with Form 1. Now since I have data in my Form 1, I need to apply it to something, so I'm just going to put some data in here before I go to the next page. Forgive me, I'm going slowly here. I'll go faster. Otherwise, it won't let me go to the next page. All right. And now you can see that we've brought in all of our characteristics. We've brought in balloon numbers, our zone location, which includes the name of the drawing, the zone location of the balloons, and then also we're bringing over our notes, our dimensions, etc., even our GD&Ts. So we can also add things like make something a key characteristic within InspectionXpert, and that would add the asterisk inside of NetInspect next to the balloon number, so you knew that that was a key characteristic as well. All right, so let me pop back over here. And let me jump over, so we'll stop right there and make sure that that makes sense. There's a lot of other things that you can do with InspectionXpert for PDF. It's really designed to help you author that information into NetInspect as quickly as possible so you can get on with all the other things that you can be doing in NetInspect to manage your FAIs. There's other things we can do in here, and one big thing that comes up a lot for companies is the ability to handle revisions. So I'm just going to tell you about it. I'm not going to get into a demo of that at this point, but just to understand that one of the things that we provide is once you've got a ballooned print like this and you get a new revision of your drawing, with InspectionXpert you can do a compare and replace. What the compare does is it overlays the two drawings and colors them in red and green so you can see the differences between the two drawings very quickly, and that's usually a huge time saver for companies that are that get a lot of revisions and need to be absolutely sure what the differences are between the two drawings. And then when you're done comparing them, you can replace or swap out the underlying drawings, and that will provide a way for you to bring all the balloons from your old project into the new revision, and then you just insert, cut, copy, move, or delete the balloons in your new revision, and you're good to go. So a couple things that we can do here. Let me jump over now into our InspectionXpert for CATIA. So that's how we get data out of a PDF. Now what would we do if we have CATIA and we have our annotated models or drawings within CATIA? Well, if you have that, we have an add-in directly into the CATIA interface for InspectionXpert. And that just takes this process and makes it even faster. So what I've done is I've clicked on this little button here to start a new project. got my CATIA model, it's just a very simple model with some annotations on it. And I'm going to just very quickly, there's lots of little settings and things that we can do when we set up a project. I'm just going to accept all my defaults on this and hit OK. And what you'll see is that this process is much faster because there's an immediate capturing or extracting of all of the annotation data, all of the inspection information that's been put into this model is being captured and put into this little table here. So I see all of the information off of this model that's been annotated. I can then add balloons to the model. So I'm going to do that. And all of a sudden my computer wants to go really slowly. Okay, there we go. And let me just go into my captures so you can see those. All right, so I'm going to zoom in. Hopefully you can see those balloons. All right, and then I can, from here, also do the same thing I can do with the PDF application. I can add information from my bill of materials, add information on specifications. I can still use the OCR capability to capture data from a PDF, or I can cut and paste it from Word or Excel, or even bring it over from CAD, from the CATIA user parameters, if that's where they exist. I can also create an image captures of my ballooned captures. So I can, what am I trying to say? A snapshot of the balloons, the ballooned captures, so that that can then also be uploaded into NetInspect. And then when I'm done, I can just publish to NetInspect here. It's going to generate a PDF, which I can then attach. So it's actually attaching the PDF of these image captures. And I'm just going to log in to publish my data. Oop, and I typed my user password wrong. Fumble finger today. Sorry about that. Upload complete, and now my data should be in NetInspect. So let's go over to NetInspect, and I'll just verify. There's my data, 5603. All right, at that, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Ron, and he can show you from here all the things that you can do with NetInspect to continue this process.
So, Gretchen, before I do that, I was just wondering if you wanted to just talk a bit about what all of the products are that you support.
Sure. So what we just showed you was the InspectionXpert On Demand, which is the product that you see at the bottom of this screen, and also the InspectionXpert for CATIA, which is listed in the section about CAD files. InspectionXpert actually has integrations into multiple CAD programs, including AutoCAD, Pro-E, or Creo, Solid Edge, and SolidWorks. And from all of those, they basically function the exact same way as what you saw in the CATIA interface. InspectionXpert On Demand is the version of InspectionXpert that works with PDF and TIFF files that can be accessed directly from NetInspect. We also have a installed version of that called InspectionXpert for PDF that's not accessible via the web. It will just be installed on your computer. Thanks so much, Ron.
Hey, thank you. So hello, everyone. My name is Ron Trout. Let me just do a quick overview of NetInspect. Been in the business for over 12 years. We have about 6,500 companies that use NetInspect today in 42 countries. About 875,000 aerospace FAIs in the system today, and we're approaching 32 million measurements. So consistent and prevalent usage across the industry. Current customer base, which many of you probably already work with, Boeing Company, Well Aerospace, Spirit Aerosystems, Triumph Bot, Unison, etc. So with the NetInspect Enterprise Quality Management Suite, and especially with the that comes with InspectionXpert and Adaptive. Just a little overview on the kinds of things that you can get from NetInspect. Starting up here in the upper left, we do capture evidence of valid production processes. I mean, that is the core to the product, whether it's the first article, statistical process controls, etc. We capture measurement information, retain it, and store it for your use. But more than that, if we move over here, we have the ability to do real-time alerts. So if you have a need for a real-time alert, if you have an out-of-tolerance condition, an out-of-control condition, real-time alerts so that people, the right people, can be engaged at any point in the manufacturing process. Also, we capture the entire supply chain, and we're unique in the industry in being able to do this. So whether you're communicating electronically with your customer or whether you have your suppliers electronically communicating to you, all of that is available and electronically visible within NetInspect in real time. And you can filter those by company. You can filter it by program, like 737 or A350, and you can even filter it by the part level. All that information is available for whether you're talking supply chain, customer data, your internal data, all available. And when it's all available, you get to see real-time quality metrics. And you start making presentations. You start doing your program management. You start doing your project management based off of real-time quality metrics, real-time status, rather than some PowerPoint data that might be a week or a month old. And that data, and you have to admit, there's a lot of data in the system. That data gets transformed into information that help you work on your improvement project based off either root cause analysis, metrics, trends. It really guides you on what to do and how to improve your services and your product for your customers, as well as seeing the services and products being improved by your supply chain. Another item is, because we have the full supply chain available to you in NetInspect, we can start doing geographical analysis. So in the event that there's a geographical incident, like in or in Europe or in America, able to identify your entire chain in that area that might be impacted by such of incident. Another thing we're working on is real-time delivery methods. So because we have the supply chain and steps of the operation work, we're able to identify risk of supply chain or customer delivery issues. And all of that coming together, showing your improved quality and your improving customer satisfaction, all of that at a lower cost. We do that through a series of NetInspect modules. Many of you are familiar with the FAI module. Another major module in NetInspect is the quality management module. This is what's used for ongoing production, used for statistical process control, injection tags, those kinds of activities on the ongoing management production activities. Many of you are also familiar with supply chain and allows electronic communications with your supply chain, including sub-suppliers, as well as customers. Full calibration module, including gauge R&R, machine equipment, and newer product that we have, eSource. I'm going to touch briefly on the module AS9100 standard. Right? It validates the manufacturers, understand the requirements, that process creation, management, electronic review.
This is Frank. Let me ask you to pause for 1 second. Your audio is dropping out terribly bad. I wonder if you could continue but dial in from another phone. because your audio is almost unreadable. We're hearing about every third word, please.
Oh, really? So how is it now?
It's much better now. If you can pick up the receiver as opposed to using the voice speakerphone, it might be better.
I will try it. It will make the demo a little challenging, but let's see what we can do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. As we talked about, InspectionXpert does have an automated ballooning tool. Gretchen just did a great demo of that, and that allows you to improve your productivity and your quality improvements by creating the first article directly into NetInspect. You can see that one of our customers, Spirit Aerosystems, has identified at least a 50% improvement in the FAI plan creation through the use of that tool. And we're getting broader and broader customer comments talking about the value of the tool and how it gets the data into NetInspect. We talked briefly about the supply chain management. Let me touch on it again. We are unique in the industry, able to provide this service. And the way it works is you hyperlink your first articles throughout your supply chain. Suppliers send data up the chain, customers can view down the chain, and it's fully secure and fully user access controlled so that they can see only the data that they are authorized to see. AS9100, this would be our quality management module. Certainly managing product and process variation throughout the life of the part, key characteristic variations, but also what NetInspect adds, cause and corrective action reporting, trend analysis, alerts, and visibility in the supply chain. And we'll be seeing that in a moment. So how it all comes together, what we have is, from a customer and a supplier view, we have creating the first article, preferably through a ballooning tool for productivity, both for you as a customer and for your supply chain. And then NetInspect provides that electronic communications for review and approval throughout that supply chain. Directly from the first article, you can automatically create the inspection plan for your process control activities for both you and your supply chain. Here you can do your measurements results, get your reports, process controls, SPC, keep your rejection tags. We offer SAP interfaces. And again, full-time visibility, real-time alerts, out of tolerance, out of control, between your supply chain and your customer view. And then all of that coming together in management visibility. We have extensive managed visibility reports, kind of a combination of data, lots of it, and also reports that will provide you guidance and information on how to do your process improvements, visibility, and drill down. And then through our partner together, and I think Frank at the end is going to be talking about some consulting, some training, some trials of the total solution. So let's go into a bit of a demonstration. I have already brought up NetInspect. And I'm going to go into the first article module. I have created a first article number 1300. So if you'll notice quickly there that there's the reports to find your first articles. There's filters and searches, and I'll show you that in a moment. So here I have a pre-populated first article. I've called this first article Assembly Part 1. You'll see that there's two component parts, Detail Part 1 and Detail Part 3, and those are connected into two different companies, one company called NetInspect Demo ITAR, another company called NetInspect Demo. One of the great values of the NetInspect tool is those Detail Part FAIs are automatically linked. And just by selecting the hyperlink here, I can bring up and view the first article of the supply chain. If this was an assembly first article, I would also see the
detailed parts here, the index of part numbers, and I could pull up an FAI report number and continue down the chain. We have some examples of parts, I think they're Boeing parts, in 6, 7 tiers down the supply chain. I also want to point out that the first thing we have to do when we get into this system is you create your customer company. You identify the customer. It's available through a drop-down. In this case, I'm using a demonstration company called Customer Company ITAR. Otherwise, you can see pretty standard AS9100 formats. We have added, for instance, a few features like a program. Here you can identify your first articles, and your suppliers can identify first articles in the program, and what that allows you to do is filter and find your first articles easier and do reporting against programs. Programs are fully definable at the user level. So for instance, in this case, 777, but it could be anything that was appropriate to your business. If we go over to Form 2, we can see AS9100 standard Form 2 information, whether it's material, whether it's processes. You can see that the specification numbers are all included, as well as down here on the bottom of the form, we do allow attached documents. So you can attach material certs, you can attach process certs, and all of that information is stored with the first article for the life of the first article and available to your customers to view or your suppliers to attach for you to view. If we go to Form 3, Gretchen showed part of Form 3 data earlier. What you can see here is standard 9102. Also, here in the requirement field, you'll notice that it is colored green. And what that means is that NetInspect will be able to mathematically evaluate the result and instantaneously show you whether you're in tolerance or out of tolerance. For instance, down here on characteristic 3, you can see the requirement is 1 plus or minus a 100th of an inch, and the variable result over here. So because it's identified in green, NetInspect knows that it can evaluate that result, and by showing it in green, we're telling you immediately it's within the first half or within 50% of the tolerance. You'll notice here on the next characteristic, number 4, that the field is yellow. And what that's telling you is that it's within the outer 50% of the tolerance. Obviously, if this number was completely out of tolerance, what we would see is a red. And you would get an immediate notification that the measurement results are out of tolerance. One thing to point out is if you hover over this detailed, you'll see that the user ID and the update, so user ID RGT, and that measurement result was entered on April 16th. I did that yesterday in preparation for the demo. Just to finish off this first article, entering the results, you can see it evaluated the results. And I've now finished my Form 3 results. I had everything else already populated. If we go back to Form 1, something I hadn't pointed out earlier is documents. So all the documents, whether it's the process certs or the material certs, whether it's CMM reports or drawings, for instance, you can just bring up a drawing. And here's the InspectionXpert part that Gretchen was working with earlier. All of those drawings are attached. All of these documents are attached and available throughout the life of the part and the FAI. Now, one of the configuration settings that's available to you is a workflow management step. So I've created for this first article a simple 3-step workflow. Basically, FAI plan, FAI execute, FAI review. Now, I've already completed the first step, but I'm going to show now that I would create the second step.
of this first article. Basically, you'd put in your password, whether that workflow step is approved or disapproved, and you can put in a comment. Now, I'm going to just start my Outlook here for a moment to show you that when I do the submit and complete this next workflow step, what will happen is the next people who are responsible to perform the first article work will get an automatic email notification that tells them that there is an action. So for instance, right here, I'm on this next workflow step, and so NetInspect demo, first article report number 1300, part number is assembly part number, and the department, which I've named first article review, now has an action pending. And so as you work through your workflow, what it will do is it will notify each of the next steps in the process that they have work statement to perform on a first article. If I had disapproved that workflow step, then the prior department would have received a notification that said that they needed to redo some work on the first article. Since we're in first article review, what I would do now is I would look through the first article, and one of the options that's also available in NetInspect is for your customers to identify a checklist. It's called a check sheet. It is configurable for the customer to send to you or for you to send to your supply chain. In this case, we've made it a very simple check sheet for the drawing. Basically, is the bubble drawing attached? Yes, we did that work. Are the material certs attached? Yes, that was also performed. And you can complete the check sheet. Some of our customers have much larger and more complex check sheets. But what this does is this allows you to communicate to your supply chain or your customer to communicate to you the requirements of the first article that they might have. It lets them identify areas of emphasis or items that should be attached, etc. Again, these are completely configurable and passed down to your suppliers. We'll submit the first article, we'll submit the check sheet that we've completed it, and I will complete the third step in the workflow, which is the review, saying that we have approved the review and we are ready to submit this first article to our customer. By marking first article complete, FAI complete, we will then complete the first article and submit it to our customer for electronic review. You can include comments that would also be sent and visible to your customer. And it comes back and tells you that the first article has been submitted. In addition, a real-time alert is sent to your customer, letting them know that there's a first article that is pending buy-off. So the status is called pending buy-off. I also am the customer of this first article, so I do get these email notifications, right? So it tells you the supplier name, in this case, NetInspect Demo ITAR. It tells you the part number and the part name and the first article number and the date, so that your customer is aware that there is now a first article that needs their attention. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in and I'm going to log into the customer account. Whoops. I was watching Gretchen and I mistyped my user ID. Sorry about that. I will point out that in my demo accounts I keep very simple passwords. However, in production, we always encourage to have strong passwords, and there are features in NetInspect that will require that. So I would go to the First Article tab. I would go into Supplier First Article Management. I would go into Approval Pending, View All. So NetInspect will give you a series of reports that would let you find the first articles from your supply chain, because I've now logged in as the customer. In this case, here's the first article we just finished, number 1300, from Assembly Part 1, or from the part numbers Assembly Part 1. And it tells you the supplier name, and it tells you the status. You can see up here that there's filters. You can sort this report by status. You can say, I want to look at all of those where we've completed the buy-off, whether we're doing a pending buy-off, or we can look at all status. And you can change the date range. Right now, we're just looking at 3 months of first articles. I'm going to open up that first article. Just as what we talked about within the supplier company, the index of part numbers included and the sub-tier first articles are also available. And just by selecting these, we would be able to view the sub-tier first articles. You'll notice all the documents are still attached, so I could look at the documents provided by the supplier. Again, there's the drawing number, or the drawing. And if I went to Form 2, I see the Form 2 data. And if I go to Form 3, I see the Form 3 data, again, color-coded, so that I can quickly review the first article for conformance. We also offer a workflow capability for a customer review. As that's a configuration option, I have not turned it on for our demo account, but there is another workflow capability that's available here. Because the customer has identified a check sheet, the customer also has to review the check sheet. So we would open up the check sheet, we would look that the supplier has attached a drawing, has attached the material certs, and then I would just need to approve that the checklist was performed per requirement. And again, these questions and categories here on the checklist are completely configurable and customizable for your business. I've now finished the review of my first article as a customer, and I can buy off or I can disapprove the first article. You'll notice the status is I can approve a first article, I can disapprove a first article, or I can approve conditionally. In this case, I'm going to approve the first article. I enter my password, and I can put in comments, which would be available to the supplier to view. If I disapprove the first article, it will notify the supplier that this first article has been disapproved, and it will reopen the first article and put it in a not complete status so that the supplier can edit and update the first article. So the FAI has now been approved, and as a supplier, I will get an email notification saying that this FAI report has been approved on 4/17 on today's date. Again, full real-time email alerts. You can also send these to text messages if you want. So you can do text messaging or email alerts. Now let's go back into the supplier. And let's just look at the first article that the customer has reviewed. Again, number 1300. And what we can see now is that the first article has been approved, and we can open up the comments and find out who did it by user ID and the date that it was done. And if there was any comments, those comments would be visible right here. Now, what's available from the first article is there's a series of productivity tools you can use. Like, for instance, you can copy a first article. By selecting this link, it would copy the first article, and that's a very handy feature for mirrored parts, left-hand parts, right-hand parts, part families, similar parts. So it just makes it easier to create a similar FAI. There is also the option of doing a delta. A delta is another way of doing a copy, but if you use the delta function, it will not let you change the part number, and it's very good at doing like revisions, or it's very good for re-executing a first article. And it just copies over a little bit more information when you do a delta. In addition, from here, one of the things that came over from InspectionXpert were that 3 characteristics here were identified as key characteristics, and those are identified with an asterisk next to the characteristic number. So features 6, 7, and 9 on this first article are identified as key features. And then down here, there's an option to create an inspection plan. So just by selecting this, what happens is that we automatically create the inspection plan for the ongoing production. Now, I had created that inspection plan before, but what we'll do is we'll go in and we will look at that inspection plan. And just by doing a part search, what happens is it brings up the features. In this case, we have features 6, 7, and 9, and it gives you just a little bit of information here in a summary. You can do searches. For instance, if you only wanted to find a description of those that had flight safety, all you would have to do is enter in the word, for instance, flight, and then you can filter the report for any feature that contains the word flight, starts with the word flight, is equal to, etc. From here, we can just look at the feature. We see the feature, the part number, it is a key feature. We can set the sample plan. So in this case, we've set a sample plan of SPC, sample plan of 100% sampling, 99% sampling, first and last part, first part, etc. But we've chosen SPC. What SPC does is it automatically keeps track of the CPK and the CP values, and as your performance on this feature improves, it will have you measure this particular feature less often. And as your performance degrades, it will have you measure the feature more often. So it's based off of basically a statistical process control model. We've moved over the operation. As we know, this is feature number 6. You can identify a tool. If you have a required tool that is to be used for this feature, you can identify that tool, and that tool would then be required to do this activity, and it would keep track of tool usage. The other thing we can do is we can pull up the part history. So you can see we have what we would call a simple chart, green, yellow, and red. Green showing the first half of the tolerance, yellow is the outer half of the tolerance, and red being out of tolerance conditions. Every one of these is a selectable point, and the colors show different run numbers. Because I use this for demo, we have smaller run numbers, but for instance, if I selected this point, we can see that on November 28th of last year, some guy named Ron Trout did this part. That would be me. I used the Bridgeport 1 machine. The purchase order was number 1, 2, and 3, etc. And it keeps track of each of the features that were measured. What I want to do now is I want to just do a quick measurement entry and show how information is measured. When you do a measurement entry, you do have to identify the machine. We're going to enter the part number. It doesn't autofill, so you don't have to do the whole part number. We're going to give it a job run lot number. I'm going to just call this run number 22. And I'm just going to do a lot size of 3 to keep it simple for today. What it does is it brings up and it will tell you how many measurements to perform by feature. So in this first case, it says that I'm going to measure 1 out of every 2, so I'm going to measure every second part based off of an SPC sample. We know that the valid response is, 0 is the nominal, plus or minus 0.001. So I'm going to make this a fairly good measurement. And this is how you would do the measurement results. We also have tools that will help you do this in an automated fashion, but I tend to demo it in manual mode so that you can see more of how the system works. We'll submit those measurements. Now in this case, I'm going to start and I'm going to do an out of tolerance measurement. So let's see, that should be out of tolerance. Yes. And then I'm going to do this one in tolerance. And one of the features of NetInspect is as soon as an out of tolerance or out of control measurement is entered, it will immediately ask the operator to identify the cause and the subcause. So immediately at the point of an out of tolerance condition, information will start to be captured to build that rejection tag. In this case, we're just going to say it's a loose fixture and it was a maintenance issue as a subcause, and the corrective action is to correct the fixtures. And the operator can enter comments in real time at the time of failure. Now we can see that we have right here by saying complete, we can see that we don't need to measure the third measurement here. So I'm just going to call this complete. I'm going to submit those measurements, and I'm going to submit and complete that op. Now if we go back and show that same chart that we just looked at, these last 2 points are the points that were measured today on the demo. So this point would be the first measurement. We can see it was done today on April 17th, and we can see the measurement results. And then up here would be the out of tolerance measurement. Again, you can see who did it, what machine they used, etc. But also we can go and directly link to the rejection tag. So we've started to create the rejection tag information now. We know the part number, we know the date, we know the inspector. We can add information like the quality supervisor. And then there's a lot more information that can be added as the full rejection tag is processed. You can edit the root cause and the subcause that was entered by the operator if necessary, if more information is determined. And you can put in quite a bit more extensive comments and processing. You can disposition the rejection tag, etc. We could spend an hour just on the rejection tag processing. I just wanted to show you briefly how this information is immediately captured and then processed. Now, what also I want to show you now is that, so this is the information that's available to you within your own company for your manufacturing. Let's go and log back into the customer. And what we'll do is we'll show what the customer can view, because the same information is available to your customer. So here when we go into the customer view, it brings up a list of the different suppliers that have sent information to this customer. In this case, we would pull up NetInspect Demo ITAR. That's the customer, or the supplier name that I was processing in. And it will bring up all of the parts that have been had measurements performed for this customer. I'm going to search for my part, detail part 1. I'm going to use the phrase start with. And here's my part, detail part 1. One of the things you'll see over here is a little bit of summary information. So this will show you the lowest CPK for any feature in that supplier, and this would be the lowest real CPK for any feature in this supplier. What this tells you is we keep track of 2 CPK values. The first one is the traditional CPK. The real CPK is just the last 20 measurements. And what this does is this starts giving you trend information immediately. So we can see that this part had a higher CPK throughout its life cycle, but the recent CPK is significantly lower. And so we're trending out of tolerance and getting more out of tolerance conditions on this part. And your customer would have that visibility, or you would have this visibility to your supply chain. By going into the part, we see the same kind of information that was available within the company, and we can go to the exact same chart, the run chart, showing the different results, and we can go in and look at the detail for different measurements. So this information is available for you to see on your suppliers, and including real-time alerts. We can also set up real-time alerts so that if you had these conditions in your supply chain, you as a customer would become aware of those in real time. I believe that's pretty much near the end of the demo that I had planned. Frank or Gretchen, is there anything that you think we should add or talk about in more detail?
Gretchen, defer to you.
I think that looks pretty good. I think that looks pretty good.
Okay.
Okay. So if we're ready to move on then, Ron?
Frank, it's yours.
Okay, thank you. So
Hey,
so
Frank,
at this point,
Larry.
Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, hi everybody. We also might mention that we have the ability to bring back measured data from a CMM back into NetInspect and InspectionXpert too. So everything is not hand typed. So we have the ability, after you have an inspection plan, you run a part on a CMM or a fair alarm, we can upload the as measured data back into NetInspect also. Just wanted to mention that.
Okay, great idea. Thank you. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. At this point, I'll invite everybody again to, if you have any questions that you'd like to get presented during the Q&A, there are 3 or 4 of them at this point, but if you have any other questions, use that chat interface in the upper right-hand corner of your screen to type in the question, and we'll make sure that we get that presented during the Q&A. If it's something specific to your situation, then we certainly may defer that to a follow-up conversation. But if you think that it may be of some generic interest to the rest of our audience, by all means, feel free to type that into the chat interface, and we'll get that addressed. So having said that, you've all seen the pieces of the solution, how we create the first article deliverables, and how we manage them with NetInspect. You may be asking, where do I start and who can help me? Next slide, if you would, Ron. So Adaptive can help by providing a simple web-based workshop. In a few hours, we can review your situation and offer some tips and tricks on using NetInspect as is so that you can get more value from what you already have access to. Maybe it makes sense to look at the first article creation process you employ today. For a small investment, you can use InspectionXpert to help expedite and simplify the process of creating the balloon drawing and the AS9100. Most importantly, InspectionXpert virtually eliminates the need to manually re-enter the AS9100 information to NetInspect. So for those of you that aren't using some ballooning utility like InspectionXpert that ties directly into NetInspect, then chances are you're doing some manual data reentry, and if that's a problem or a concern to you, it can certainly help you with that. If you're local to one of our offices in North America, maybe it makes sense for us to pay you an on-site visit to review your situation firsthand and develop a plan to make the entire process easier and eliminate the redundant data entry. Our goal is to provide you quick value and help you get more value from what you already have. If this is of interest, please let us know. So now it's time for questions and answers. So again, if you have any questions, type that into the chat window and we'll get those answered. So Ron, if you'll go on to the final slide, please. And so let me go to the Q&A screen because I think we've got 3 or 4 in here that are fairly audience. So one of the questions that, let me see, Maria asked, and this is for you, Gretchen, how well does the OCR recognize handwritten blueprints? And this is for the ballooning process on the front end.
Well, that's a good question because I know there's lots of fairly old drawings out there that you need to be able to get into NetInspect for your FAIs. When it comes to handwritten drawings, handwriting, it really has a huge impact on whether we're talking engineering block lettering or we're talking later years when people just kind of literally wrote with their,